What's going on, motivators? We got another video. We got to talk about the left's coming to realization on the redistricting. Let's get into this.
Certainly, Virginia, by constitutional amendment, has a new redistricting effort that was put in place and first utilized after in the 2021 redistricting. Certainly, I've been watching with interest what other states are doing, but I have no plans to redistrict Virginia.
Ken Cuccinelli, he's a Republican.
Wow, she literally just said she has no plan to redistrict Virginia. That's what she ran on as a moderate. This is how those people lie directly to your faces. I have no plan to redistrict Virginia. Bam. Less than a year of being in office. Less than 6 months, to be honest. Right? Bam, she redistricted.
Ken, good to see you. So first, I guess let's get to the breaking news. This judge in Southern Virginia ordering results to not be certified. The judge called the ballot language flagrantly misleading. What's your reaction?
Right. Well, it certainly was flagrantly misleading, but my basic reaction is that I appreciate lower court wins, but the Virginia Supreme Court is going to decide this. And to Terry's point about, well, hey, if they didn't decide it before, there's a reason the Supreme Court held off until after the vote.
I mean, this is all Democrats who were saying that the way the ballot measure was made, as far as the wording, was very deceptive to the voters. Very deceptive.
Over 100 years of Virginia legal precedent says that the vote in a referendum is part of the legislative process. It's analogous to a governor signing a bill. You don't sue on a bill that hasn't passed yet. So what they've done here in terms of timing is very much in keeping with the Virginia legal history. What isn't in keeping with Virginia legal history is how this General Assembly has so blatantly ignored the requirements of the Constitution.
Yes, they blatantly ignored the requirement of the Constitution, but they're saying they're going to appeal it. The Supreme Court might be like, yes, it is. But as of now, everyone who's challenges is saying that, man, this goes against what the own Constitution of Virginia says. My big thing is, did they know about it? They have to have known, but they still pushed it anyway.
To amend the Constitution. So I think it's highly likely that this will be overturned probably in May.
We shall see. We'll wait to see in May whether or not it's overturned.
In the upcoming midterm elections, a judge just blocked the state from certifying last night's redistricting results. He cited multiple reasons, including what he calls misleading language on the ballot and that the legislature did not follow its own rules for passing the referendum. The Virginia Supreme Court, though, will ultimately decide the issue in the coming weeks. In the meantime, President Trump and MAGA are melting down. Trump basically claimed that the election was rigged and blamed mail-in ballots, while Ari Fleischer, who's usually pretty friendly to Trump and very friendly to Republicans, says, I should also point out that the GOP will now lose net seats across the country. If you're going to pick a fight, at least win it. The other side will always fight back. All of this was foreseeable and avoidable. We should not have started. Michael, you're a Virginian.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's kind of unfortunate. I mean, history is on the side of Democrats. We already know that. The party of the president typically loses seats in the House. You look at the president's approval ratings. Mathematically, that also has implications in terms of what that net loss could be. So the question, if you're a strategist on the Republican side, is how do you diminish what those losses potentially are? And the gerrymandering, which is pretty unprecedented, makes it really, really difficult to factor in multiple variables to see, well, will Dems have a 25-seat, 30-seat loss, or will it be slightly less? I think it may be slightly less. You still have the Supreme Court and their ruling coming soon on Section 2 of the voting rights. That could have serious implications, particularly in a lot of southern states.
Serious implication. All the southern states, we're looking at least over 20 seats, right, that have been gone into minorities because of that. That could be overturned. If it does, it's over.
So I don't really know how this is
should
going to
they
play
have-
out.
should they have done it,
Abby.
is the question.
No, I don't think so. I think reducing the incentive to compromise is just not good for the country. No one wins here in the long run, neither side.
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I just feel like they took one of the most balanced places in the country and they just totally disenfranchised Republicans. So, I personally, what? Do you
talking about
disagree?
Virginia?
Yes, it's a
But
purple state.
what about Texas and
I don't
Missouri?
agree. I don't agree with that
Okay,
either.
all right.
Shermichael and I were discussing
Illinois,
an agreement.
New York,
Gerrymandering is a problem. It's a bipartisan problem.
Can I ask a question?
The thing is, Texas is still not as unbalanced as Virginia is right now. 10-1. That's crazy.
We shouldn't be doing this anywhere, but Donald Trump put us in this position, and it frankly is because no one would tell him no. And now Republicans are saying, "Oh, but our democracy."
But
Where have you been?
Sochi, I think the issue with Virginia, though, after Texas, California passed their referendum, and it pretty much equaled everything out. I think the issue here with Virginia is that they're only leaving one Republican congressional district. Now, of the 5 districts that Texas will get, they're not Republicans, that is, won't win all 5 of them. Hell, we'll be lucky if we win 2 out of the 5. More than likely, Democrats will win 3 because they're mostly in Hispanic areas. So this is backfiring
Two parts of that
in terms of
are
expectations.
important.
Yes, let's see what Florida is going to do. Take back and rebalance it. That's all I'm saying.
Now blocked the results from being certified. The judge in rural Tazewell County says the language on the ballot was, quote, flagrantly misleading and accused state lawmakers of not following their own rules.
Democrats could potentially gain up to 4 seats in the House with this new configuration. Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones says he intends to immediately appeal the ruling. Meantime, senior Republicans in Washington are pressuring Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to redraw his state's congressional districts.
We got to rebalance it. Let's go, DeSantis. We got to balance it. We got about 5 more days to see what Florida is going to do. Because I said, if Florida does this, I want to see how it turns out. Where else does Democrat have to try to win? It will be pretty tough.
Good to see you as always. Do you think this challenge in Virginia has a chance of succeeding?
I do think it has a chance of success. This battle is not over. So if you look at their various challenges here brought by the RNC and other Republican entities, they're basically making 2 types of challenges here. One is substantive. So they're arguing that the way the question was phrased on the ballot was unfair, was misleading. And there is some legitimacy to that. I mean, the question asks, do you want to, quote, restore fairness to the process? Who's going to realistically vote no on that? I mean, a lot of people did, but it's slanted.
We know exactly what happened. It's very slanted. We know what they were doing. They know what they were doing. They purposely placed it that way so that it would trick some people into voting. Again, basic question. The Democrats, the way they do things, it's very alien. Annoying at the same time, too.
The second category is the procedural challenges. And that's where I think the challengers have some real heft behind their arguments. For example, one of the laws says if you're going to do this, the Virginia General Assembly has to pass a law, and then voting, the referendum, can't start for 90 days after the law is passed. Here, we're not even 90 days out now, and the voting's done. So I don't know how Virginia's going to defend that. There's another procedural quirk, I guess, that says the way you have to do this is the Virginia General Assembly has to pass a law, then you need to have an intervening election, then a second General Assembly needs to pass the law again. And
so they're breaking their own rules. Just think of it this way. He's citing that out. They should know that they're breaking their own rules. To uphold this in the Supreme Court of Virginia, that means they're not following their own rules too. So it has to be overturned.
the argument here that you're hearing from the defenders is, well, the 2025 governor election, that's the intervening election. The problem is that overlapped with the first vote. So there's some procedural nuance here that I think is going to be a real problem for people defending this outcome. And I think it's going to give the Republicans a chance.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Amazing. If all this stuff plays out in our favor and we still get it from the Florida side as far as redistricting, wow, what a turnout, burnout.
And this effort has already come through the Virginia court system. It's well acquainted with this judge, as it were. Talk to us about that.
So this judge, the same judge in Tazewell County, has tried to block the referendum even from happening twice. It went up to the Virginia Supreme Court, which essentially said, we're not going to block it. We're going to let it happen. However, they did not bless it. What the Virginia Supreme Court said is, we're going to let the referendum happen. If it's a no vote, it's moot. We don't have to get involved. Now it's a yes vote, though. And so I believe it's clearly headed back to the Virginia Supreme Court. But important to know, you'll read some of the coverage, which will say, oh, the Virginia Supreme Court has already rejected this twice. That's not quite right. What the Virginia Supreme Court has said is, if it's a yes, come back to us then, and we're not giving you any opinions yet.
Man, this is like all way the Supreme Court works. The main Supreme Court of the land works the same way too. Oh no, they're not gonna, their hands are free and clear. If it's a yes, now they have to make decisions and come out with dissents and what the other. Again, this whole thing is based on Republicans, right? Republicans never get enough people to come out to vote when they need them. And Democrats are also pushing on the idea that they suck right now too. That Trump is not doing as well with his numbers, with the war going on, that it will disincentivize personnel from voting. So again, if everything could get flipped within that 6-month period, there may be a lot of chances of Republican pulling out an upset.
Overall, tens of millions of dollars on the ballot initiative.
I mean, given the fact that the margin was much more narrow than a lot of Democrats anticipated, what do you think? Did Republicans miss a chance here?
Well, there's no question that the 3 or 4 to 1 spending difference was the margin.
4 to 1 spending. Wow. I mean, that's one thing Republicans have not been able to do is match Democrat when it comes to spending. Democrat, I don't know where their money is coming from. I mean, I do know where their money is coming from. It's funneling back with those kickbacks that California somehow spent billions and we cannot find. Same thing for Chicago, right? All of those places, New York, all those places have a whole bunch of money just being lost. Minnesota, and yeah, it goes back to the Democrats, kickback to funnel their campaign. How amazing. Like somebody's just donating the maximum amount that they can. And they're always in tie with the Democrats some way or the other.
This will be about a 2 or 3 point win for the yes side. That is, it's hard to say that money didn't make that difference. But now they have to win 4 constitutional challenges, state constitutional to clarify. Challenges, and they have to win all 4 of them to hold on to this referendum. I just don't think they can do it. And now they're going to say, just like Terry did, well, 3 million people voted and you can't ignore the will of the people. Well, they were ignoring the will of the people and how they brought this forward. And now we're going to have it decided by the Virginia Supreme Court. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 7-0 ruling throwing this out.
That is amazing news. So all the people who are throwing their hands up in the air right now for the Democrats, yes, Virginia, we got a yes vote. It could be all overturned. Now, I'm not going too crazy yet. I want to see what the Supreme Court says first, because I don't want to be the one neither who is like, biting too much into what I could chew, right? So I want to see what's going on first. But if it does turn back, wow, what a whopping win for the Republicans.
The Virginia Attorney General has said he will appeal. It'll go to the mid-level Court of Appeals, then the Virginia Supreme Court. This has to move quickly. I mean, the primaries in Virginia are scheduled for August. People have to know who's going to be on the ballot. Who are the candidates going to be? Where?
There's something about Virginia that kind of makes it unique when it comes to their efforts to redistrict, right? I mean, it's just their state law, their constitution. They've sort of run into some issues that maybe make it trickier for Democrats in this case than someone else in another state.
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, each of these is very intensely state focused, right? You're getting into things that were passed as part of the original constitutional conventions in the 17 and 1800s. I also think the extremity of this redistricting, the fact that you have a state that's roughly 50-50, a little bit Democratic leaning, ends up with a 10.
Roughly 50-50. It's a purple state. We all knew that. Purple state. Even by their own measure of the referendum, it showed you that it was a purple state. 50 to 49.7. It shows you that the state is not a full blue state like Democrats would like you to believe. And I'm pretty sure they were scared too that it was so close. We're spending 4 to 1 spending and it was still so close. We got to understand too, the Republicans probably had a plan in there to not spend as much money because the midterm is right around the corner. And they want to put a lot of money into possibly holding on to the House. So they don't want to put that in there knowing that there's a possibility they still could fight it in the Supreme Court. And you just heard they got 4 different hurdles they have to cross to make this referendum official. Amazing.
Into one congressional split, I don't know how that's going to sit when it gets up the line in the courts. It's not technically legally relevant, but I think the extremity of this is going to be something that judges do take notice of.
We see what's going down. It could be a good day for our Republicans and a bad day for Democrats, or vice versa. Let me know what you think inside the comments. All right, motivators, if you enjoy what you've seen and heard, please like, comment, share, but most importantly, subscribe to A Black Veteran's Perspective. Stay motivated.